Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am so glad that you have made your way here this morning. I was here and ready, and then I realized, oh my God, I haven't actually made the link and everything. I was thinking people were already sitting on the link, so I was brewing coffee and everything and getting ready. And I guess I was confused because last night I did make up the thumbnail after the show last night, but then I guess I actually forgot to actually create the show. So hopefully people will be coming in, even though we're a few minutes late. So sorry about that. But let's see here. Desist Dawdling is here with us. We've got people here. Desist Dawdling, Zero the Blade, one of our channel members. Good morning. Neutromancer, Brent. Brandon Dolls is here. Welcome, Brandon. Good to see you. And Andrew is here. Wonderful. Good to see everybody. Hey, if you want to hear a really good conversation about storytelling, Brianna and I had, I think, a fantastic discussion last night on Pan's Labyrinth. So we had our discussion on that last night. So if you look at that on the live, tab of the YouTube channel, look up Pan's Labyrinth. I thought that went extremely well. So that was a fantastic conversation. I'm really enjoying our story analysis evenings. So we got that, had that last night. And now tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking with Doug Burton. Is that correct? Yeah, Doug Burton. Yes, last name Burton. And he has been recommended to me by Cameron Pasha as someone who has a really unique theory of the feminine hero's journey, the feminine side of the hero's journey. And so tomorrow night, that's Thursday, right? Tomorrow night, we have another table talk tonight, or that this week on tomorrow, where we'll be talking to him. So hopefully you will join us for those as well. So, okay, some more people coming on in here. So I really enjoyed that. Today, we're going to be talking about the Tales of Rabivania World Primer, and probably coming close to finishing it. I actually think I wish I had been able to do a little bit more work on it than I have been able to, but I have been hitting the index card major rocks hard. There were actually these were huge rocks that have been sitting here on these index cards for weeks and months and were really stressing me out. So there was a bunch of stuff that I had to do. So I was spending a whole lot of time like just trying to get those things done. And I was very pleased. It took me about 4 days. I was very pleased that I got the ones that were most stressing me out most done over about 4 days. There are still a few other things that are on this list that I'm going to hammer on and get done, such as making up the intro material for our dinner and a board game, and then also our role-playing nights, because we can't do that show until I have those. So those are still some of the things that are sitting here on this list, and I'm going to continue to hammer at these and get those done. And then also I'm going to do a clean the house and clean outside day. So I haven't gotten to work as much on this primer as I would have liked to, but on the other hand, we're almost done. So maybe we can finish or come close to finishing it right now, because really I realized I'm going to put in another section. We're going to talk about that, and then we have to put in stats. And I've been working on both the Pathfinder and the 5e stats for this. And I've been posting to the Ravenkeep Discord about some of the stats as they come up. But I figure we're going to generate some more here, and then the only thing that this primer will need after the stats is the art. I'm going to have to figure out how to get the art done. I did very briefly experiment, with trying to train a model in Leonardo AI, because I think what this is going to need is a custom model, because even though, like, for instance, Midjourney can get the anatomical structure of the rabbits down pretty well, I am having a really hard time getting it to understand 13th century armor. And I want to be sure that gets right. So that's going to be that'll be the next step. Now, after we get the stats put in, I am going to let it cool, and then I'm going to read the entire thing through. So the entire thing needs to be read through a couple of times. Then I'm going to let it cool. Then I'm going to read through it again and make sure that it is the way that I want it to be. So we're getting close, and then we'll go to layout. Once I got the art, then I'll go to layout. It'll probably have to be laid out twice, because if you have just the fully digital side of things, just for the PDF, that's one thing. But then if you're trying to lay it out for print, I'm afraid that's going to be a little bit different. I'm anticipating it anyway, so it'll probably have to be laid out twice. Once just as a PDF, and then once with the intention of it going to print. So I'm actually very excited about that. I'm very excited about that we're approaching this level to get the first of our first of the RPG kinds of books done. So that means that we'll be moving on to, my plan was to move on to Theophany after this, which is the story of the fall of Satan. And I had already started to outline that book when I was just like at a bar someplace. So I've got a little bit of information on what that's supposed to be there. But on the other hand, we also do have Unspeakable Cults and potentially the Black Cipher as well. So we'll just have to see where this goes from here. Desistodling says, do you mean 3D models, or are you looking for digital art? So yeah, the digital art, not 3D models, not yet. If you're talking about like miniatures, there one time, eventually I would love to do miniatures. We'll just have to see. But no, I'm talking about training models for the diffusion models, because like Stable Diffusion, if you're actually running Stable Diffusion locally on your machine, which I do have a local install of Stable Diffusion, but man, there is I haven't really gotten to work with it all that much yet. There's a lot of stuff, and it seems like every single day I was trying to really track all of the developments there, and it's just a new development every day, some kind of new extension or something like that. So that's kind of running this raw if you've got Stable Diffusion running here. And if you've got Stable Diffusion on your computer, if you've got something that Stable Diffusion doesn't understand, then you can train the model yourself to generate works of art with it. So I was trying, but Leonardo AI, when you log on to Leonardo, it does allow you to train custom models, which as far as I know, it's the only sort of commercial one that allows you to do that. And I experimented with that, and then I realized, okay, I did some things wrong with the training material that I was giving it. I might be able to do better, but it's going to, I need to work with it some more. So we will see. Brett says, yeah, some of the best ideas in history were developed in a bar or tavern or pub. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And, you know, I'm the guy who will take like the laptop or something like that to a bar. I have done that for a long time. I know I am that guy who will be there. But on the other hand, I sit in the house. That's getting out of the house, because I sit here in the house all day. I mean, here in this house. So sometimes I'm like, man, I've got to get out of the house. And that's one of the reasons why I'll go down to the local grill and like just eat a hamburger, have a beer, you know, talk with people there, but also get some work, just to take my laptop and think about a story or something like that, or work with the index cards for the script or something like that, just to get out of my house. I have not signed up for the Adobe Firefly beta. I think I saw some videos on that, and I thought that was just, you know, that I think that goes to show you even more that there's not going to be this distinction between AI artist and digital artist, that just the AI tools are coming into the to the digital art workflow. Because there were some people, like even Pathfinder was saying, or Paizo, that we're not going to be using AI generated art. Well, but all of those tools are becoming integrated into any digital artist workflow. And I see people on my side, or the people that I follow and things like that, who are already incorporating so much of that tools in order to increase their productivity and just loving it. So, I don't see that. Oh, Sable Phoenix is here. Sable Phoenix says, I signed up for Firefly beta. I think I just got an email about it. Okay. Now that one, see, I didn't sign up for that one, but I probably should, but I'm not as good at like Photoshop, but maybe, I mean, I've got it. Maybe I should try it. Maybe it's what I need, because I don't actually consider myself, I would love to be able to do more art, but like my relationship with these this diffusion models and such is like the role of art director. We were talking about this in the Discord server as well. That to me, it seems like my role as art director, I wouldn't credit myself as an art personally. I wouldn't credit myself as an artist for something that was generated by a diffusion model. But if I am training the diffusion model, I'm teaching the diffusion model what I'm wanting, I'm art directing it, I'm definitely the art director, I think. Oh, Desist Dawdling also says, me too. I've not had a chance to look in. Yeah, well, all right. More stuff is happening. Hey, James. Okay. I do have my coffee this morning, but we need to, we got World Anvil here, and then we'll dig in. I want to use, in fact, I want to look at Chat GPT-4. I've got Chat GPT-4, and we're going to be using that and see what it comes up with for some of the statistics and things like that for this book. So we'll be using that here as well. So, all right, let's go over here to the morning messages, and then we'll get into this primer. Check out the World Anvil website to learn more about everything that it can do for you and your world building and your games, and also be sure to use the code MORNINGGRIND to get 40% off any annual World Anvil subscription. I knew World Anvil was great for game masters and for writers who are developing their worlds and want a beautiful site to display and manage all of that information. But what I didn't know is that World Anvil also offers extensive tools for players, including character sheets, journals, inventory management, and spell books, basically all the digital tools a player who is looking to immerse themselves in their character would need. We're going to be using World Anvil here on The Morning Grind to build out the worlds of Rabivania and Theophany, so we'll get to see it in action here as we go on the show. And thank you for being here with me live on The Morning Grind. And if you're watching on replay, welcome to you as well. It's great to have you here. If you're enjoying The Morning Grind, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It will really help the channel grow, and I would be very thankful. We also have the Ravenkeep Discord server you can join if you would like to be a part of the community. All right, that's what you need to know. Let's get to the main topic. All right, I am putting a link to the Ravenkeep Discord server down here as well in the chat. So if you have not part of the server, I would love to have you. So you can get that link link right there. I was also going to say that, so I've also been thinking about getting more videos out. Like, what videos what's the most efficient thing for me to be doing? And of course, that's been changing because I think that it's become increasingly possible for me to do videos that are related directly to the worlds I want to build. And so that's actually why over the past few days as well, I've been working on canceling some projects that I think no longer were relevant, cleaning out canceling projects or finishing projects to clean out mental headspace. Because in the past, a lot of the reasons that I was doing certain projects is because I couldn't do other projects that I really wanted to do, or I thought I needed to do some other projects in order to gain some type of skill set or something like that before I go on to actually being able to do what I want to do. But with this crazy technology that we've all of a sudden had appear over the past 3 months, I think I'm able to move forward into the stuff that I really want to do, because I think that my highest value as a creator is actually the stories, that these worlds to be built out and the stories that are told within them. I think that's my highest value. And I've got to, and there's stories that for a long time I have wanted to tell. So now I feel like I can directly go and sort of attack them. So we'll probably, I don't know if we'll look at it today, but over the next few weeks as we go, I'm thinking that instead of trying to generate a whole bunch of different YouTube videos, the most time-consuming kinds of videos to create are the ones that are like the edited 7, 8 to 12 minutes kind of videos. I haven't even been able to put one of those out like on this channel. But do I need to? Or do I need to just move over to the channels that are like, I'm still streaming and everything here on this channel. But as far as don't put my time into trying to edit together another 8 or 12 minute video on some kind of subject for this channel, spend that time actually creating the stories for and putting them out in video format on YouTube, which is what I was trying to do have been trying to do for years. So I think that's the way that I want to go. And we can follow by saying which one's going to be the most successful world here on YouTube because of what people are responding to and what's getting watched and what's not. I'm really interested in that. It'll be an interesting experiment. Okay, let's breathe. Man, feel like stuff's going on. I got coffee this morning. Got my coffee this morning. So let's breathe. 2 deep breaths, complete exhale, and then let's sip. Ah, good coffee. Good coffee. It is doing what it is supposed to be doing this morning. Okay, let me bring up the world primer. Sneeze coming. Excuse me. Okay. So what I think that I want to add here, because we've talked about what's our relationship with squires and knights. So here are our character classes. So I've said, let's add in knight, druid, witch, and damsel of the royal blood. Now, actually, those classes have not been written out. But I really think that what we need to do, it's in the context of 5th edition, in the context of a level system, it's really bothering me that, like, why do we have a 1st level knight here? Like, what does it mean to be a 1st level knight? That's something that bothers me quite a bit. The same kind of argument for why do we have a 1st level paladin? Well, maybe we shouldn't. So I don't have enough time enough time by meaning words and page count to really try to get into an entirely new structure for knights and squires. But actually, I think that we should do it. Should do some of it, at least put some of it in here, because I want this to be the world primer. But if there's like much greater material on Rabivania using the 5th edition rule set, then I don't want this to be contradictory to it, and that would be a major thing. Like if I had more page count, what I would do is I would separate knight from squire, and that you have to have a certain amount of levels in squire in order to qualify in order to become a knight. So I think we should at least put a hint of that into this. So I think that we're going to put squire here. And then lean into the idea that in 5th edition, don't they say anyway that basically the first 3 levels, you're still gaining gaining power. You're still not fully whatever it is that you are really until about level 3 or level 4, right? You still have some different choices to make about yourself, and all of your powers. It might actually be by level 3 that all of a sudden you are kind of at full power. So I think that we should kind of lean into that here, especially since the stories about Rabivania, like that I've been telling, have or been writing, have been focused on squirehood and growing up. So it seems like an oversight if you don't have that. And so how could you go on an adventure before you become a knight? I think it's by a squire, but there's only so many levels of squire that by the time you get to a certain level of squire, then you're expected to go over and start taking levels of knight because you're dubbed a knight. And I think this actually does have to do with backgrounds as well, because the backgrounds in 5th edition often bother me because it could be a couple of different reasons. One reason is that sometimes there seems like backgrounds that you are supposed to take as a certain class, and because they line up the particular skills that background gives you, and if you take something else, you all of a sudden are missing some kind of component to that. And I don't like backgrounds to be that way. Backgrounds, there shouldn't be one if you're this class that you're supposed to take. And also, sometimes I don't think the backgrounds make sense. Like the one that people take, understandably, but the one that seems to make the least sense to me is soldier. Like, how old are you supposed to be when you're a level 1 character anyway? And that your background is supposed to be like soldier? Okay, why are you still a level 1 character if you've already been a soldier? Like, for how many years? Like, you spent, 3 years as a soldier. Was there a war? Was there fighting? And yet you're still a level 1 character? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So that's something that I would change. And so I think we at least need to kind of imply this change here. Now, so if we have this situation between squire and knight, I think druid sort of naturally does that. Because often, in fact, we could probably get I might have the druid AD&D book around, or maybe a PDF of it or something like that, because it just flat out says that it actually takes a really long time to become a druid. That even though your character class is druid, in universe, you're not a druid until I think you hit like 7th level or something like that. They don't actually consider you a druid until you hit about 7th level. And all the levels between 1 and 6 are some kind of an initiate, in order to get your druidic power. So you could just go with that as well right here. Or we could do the same kind of thing and say, hey, now I think they called it the Olave. Let me go over here let me look that up, and then I'll go to the comments. Is that a word? I'm thinking all this through. Talking out loud, which is what this is for. And let's go over here. Look at the comments. Oh, it's okay. We don't have the beta yet. Unless it's squire, then the subclass later on knight replaces the title of squire. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do it that way too. Neutromancer says knight and paladin used to be sort of prestige titles for very high level fighters in the old days. Right. And I think that and I want to kind of return to that. Tomocrat. Hey, Tomocrat. Good morning, Jason. Neutromancer says, I like the idea that the new character already has some off-screen adventuring experience. It's usually assumed in my non-D&D games. Yeah, so I'm fine with that too. So what I think I would do, I guess my preference here is to say, let's lean into the first 2 or 3 levels or whatever are some kind of training levels. And you can certainly play them. Just like I said, some of my favorite games anyway have been low-level games. And even one of my favorite games was a level 0 game. So I don't have a problem with that. But on the other hand, if you say, hey, I actually want to play knights. Let's actually start by playing this game where you're knights. Then it should be easy to make like a third or fourth level character right out of the gate that is already, kind of like your starting level knight. Tomocrat says, I've recently started to see levels in a D&D comparison more as a concept. The age of the PC doesn't matter. Yeah. Neutromaster says it's also fine if you're learning to be an X, like you say, paladin in training, knight in training. In D&D, we know for a fact they don't take the oath until they get the subclass. Sable Phoenix says a lot of the subclasses in 5e were taken from prestige classes in 3.5, and prestige classes had a lot of requirements that you specifically had to build for. Right, and I like that sort of building for a certain thing. Sable Phoenix, much as if you wanted to become a knight in real life, you had to engineer your character's life toward accomplishing that goal. And I want to have some of that here too. If you want to be a druid, you need to do the same kind of thing. If you want to be a knight, you need to do the same kind of thing. Likewise, if you want to be a high-ranking cleric or something like that, you kind of have to engineer your life structure in order to do that. Some were just title names too. Each level in old school D&D had a title like sorcerer or barbarian. Hey, and that it's funny you should bring that up because we looked at that. Shadow Dark kind of brings that back. Shadow Dark brought that back with a title, and it seemed like it was a little bit sort of added on. Okay, so there's this title thing here because Shadow Dark had that, and originally when I read that, I was going, well, that's because I think we don't have that many different character classes here, and rather than trying to create a new character class for every other word that we can think of here, we just take level, what's your alignment, and then we give you some type of title. But it does say that these titles should be able to increase what you should be able to interact with, like who you should be able to interact with. And that occurred to me that it was, that could be, and maybe it's going to be expanded more in the full book because there wasn't a whole lot on it in Shadow Dark, but maybe it has to do with the interaction side of role playing. That how do you level up your interactions? We can talk about leveling up our fighting. We can talk about leveling up dungeon delving. I think we can talk about leveling up our ability to explore the wilderness and do overland travel, which I think Dungeons and Dragons does poorly at. But then also, like, how do you level up your social interactions? Because a lot of times when people are just talking about interactions, they'll just talk about a role-playing element with another NPC. But as you level up, you're increasing your ability to interact, which should be or could be the types of people who are willing to give you an audience. Outside of some story exceptions, maybe we're not in a situation where a first level character is going to have an audience with the king, right? That you've got to work your way up there, right? You got to be of a certain level in order to actually be able to go to different places and interact with a high ranking lord. And so in the beginning, you're kind of operating with other low-level peasants and things like that and shopkeepers. But then as you're leveling up, you're able to interact with higher-level NPCs in the world. And I've been thinking about that as a way to kind of systematize the interaction side of this. Sable Phoenix says, my problem with trying to come up with 10 or more titles for each class is you wind up with meaningless stuff like Battle Rager. I completely agree with that. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so wait a minute. Let me see if let me see if I can find the Complete Druid's Handbook. So we've got some examples here. I got what is the word? I thought it was something like Olave. And I'm wondering if that's a D&D term or if it's something that comes from someplace else. Like some type of historical thing. I must have the word wrong because I can't search for it. Well, this just says initiate. Where the initiates? Okay, no, actually, no. This says from the AD&D book, initiates constitute the 1st to 10th level druids within the circle. A typical 1st or 2nd initiate often works part-time as a village druid. The initiate keeps up a rural occupation, beekeeper, farmer, herder, while studying under higher level druid mentor. The exceptions to this are the stereotype rare individuals PCs. An individual finds it tough to recognize beginning druids, since they may seem like other peasants. Initiates between 3rd and 6th level have achieved most of their granted powers, with the exception of shapeshifting. Now, we're not going to do shapeshifting in Rabivania. The cornerstone of the druidic order, they frequently devote their full time to their faith. They normally live in stone, wood, or mud brick cottages as the protectors of small tracts of wilderness or wood or river valley. A protector of a small tract of wilderness, a wood, a river valley, or a village or group of hamlets. Most druids of this status have the village druid or guardian kit. Those who choose to protect a village have become respected community leaders. Initiates between 7th and 11th level have received all of their branches granted powers. Such druids live simply but have widened their areas of influence, perhaps becoming guardians of entire forests or mountains, or of the villages of a barony. The druids often dwell near sacred groves, surrounded by a few acres of virgin wilderness sanctuary for rare and magical plants. Okay, so actually, they don't call you a druid until you actually hit 12th level. I'm gonna have to figure out where that word comes from. Neutromancer says you weren't a wizard until level 10. You were a magic user. LOL. I remember in AD&D there could only exist one level 15 druid in the world. Right? Yeah, druids were strange like that. Yeah, that you and you had to fight it out too in order to increase levels as a druid once you got to a certain level. Okay, so maybe we do something similar. Like I said, the page count. I'm not exactly sure where I am on the page count with this. That was something I need to do soon, especially once I get some more of the stats in here, is copy all this out and at least try to do a quick rough formatting and see where I stand as far as the number of pages this is, because this is only supposed to be 48 pages, and there's supposed to be art in there as well. Now, this is going to be text heavy, but that's okay. I want to be able to communicate information in all of this. So maybe druidic initiate. Now, did oh, I thought I had some information on Knight, some stats already. Okay, let's try an experiment over here. Yeah, you would get stuck at certain levels, and a lot of people probably don't understand that now. That okay, you can still be gaining experience points, but there can only be one, level 15 druid or something like that in the entire world. So until you defeat that person or that person decides to give up or whatever, you can still be accumulating experience points, but they're not going to do anything for you. Let's see if AI can help us out with this. So I've over here on ChatGPT 4. So this is ChatGPT 4, and it says that this currently has a usage cap of 25 messages every 3 hours. Expect significantly lower caps as we adjust for demand. Let's see. I need a character class for levels 1 to 5 for a squire. Yeah, medieval fantasy Dungeons and Dragons game. Let's see what it does. I do kind of like the idea that that you're not operating fully as a druid. So maybe I need several different types of things like 1 to 5. Now, what I'm thinking about with the level 1 to 5 squire kind of thing is that, well, you should be knighted someplace around maybe level 2, 3, or 4. Now, you've got to engineer. I like the idea of engineering your life around that. It's probably, I mean, D&D might not be ideal for this because I like, in theory, the idea that, well, I need to actually spend some more time as a squire because I got this skill and this skill, but I'm short on getting this skill. I wasn't able to get this skill, and in order to be a knight, you have to have at least this skill over here, skill level and something over here. If you're just leveling up in squire, then it seems like you would qualify when you hit a certain level. Okay, ChatGPT is not generating over here. Try that again. I need a squire character class. For levels 1 to 5. A medieval. Let's say a historically oriented. Dungeons and Dragons game. Fun. Come up with something. But on the other hand, so while it's doing that, I tell you what, let's go over here and take a look at get some inspiration from one of the systems that I like that does this, which is Hackmaster. So, for instance, this is the Hackmaster's Player's Handbook. Hang on, I got to find that window. Okay, right here. So, like, for instance, here is how it does it. So, the knight right here, we've got, okay, the fighter right here. So, the fighter is a class. That you can just take. So, okay, so the fighter is the fighter. But then we get down here and we get down here to knight. And it says, as a fighter subclass, knights are most similar to that class. As a fighter subclass, knights are most similar to that class in their ability to destroy foes through force of arms. Knights are leaders of cavalry, excelling in mounted combat and weapons associated with the same. Like, for instance, if you don't know how to ride a horse, or in Rabivania, if you don't know how to ride a fox, then at a certain level, then they're not going to knight you. And if you don't, or don't have some kind of level, a certain level of proficiency with the knightly weapons, they're not going to knight you. So that's, it's a social thing that you also have to have. You can't just go out to a dungeon and kill things and become a knight. So as a fighter subclass, knights are leaders of cavalry. Okay, they also outclass other characters with their chosen knightly weapons. However, they have certain weapons and armor restrictions, as well as many restrictions based on their code of conduct, which does sound like the kind of stuff we're going over here. A knight must only have the strength and skill to face mortal danger in service of their chivalric code imposed by his order. Each knight has his own particular code that enumerates the qualities to which all knights of the order must adhere. Honesty, valor, and loyalty are required qualities of knights, with honor being of particular importance. Knights in average honor or higher are admired. I haven't added any type of like honor, but the honor is in this game. And in most areas, and so rank at a minimum just under the lowest form of nobility, if not actual nobility. As such, they are accorded a high regard from others, and it is within their right to demand it from those below their station, even by force if need be. So class requirements. So unlike other classes, characters do not begin play as a knight. Rather, knighthood is earned through proven loyalty to combat prowess in the service of a lord. To become a knight, a fighter character must be of strong body and stout heart, meet minimum physical requirements of 11 strength, 13 strength, 11 over 51 dexterity, and 12 constitution, as well as show above average leadership qualities, minimum 11 over 71 charisma, and at least a rudimentary understanding, minimum of 8 over 51 wisdom. Prove his worth, achieve at least 5th level. in the fighter class. Entering the knight class as a character advances into 6th level. This makes him a 6th level knight at that time. So here we got knight advancement table. So 1 to 5 is as fighter. And then you pick up knight. Oh, well, GPT is saying something, so it's just being slow. So that's fine. Let's look at this, continue to look at this, though, because this is definitely the kind of thing like, gee, this kind of thing should be imported into Dungeons and Dragons, I think. So a character can choose to enter a knighthood at a higher fighter level than 5th. In this eventual, so I mean, one thing we could do is we could just say that fighter for level 1 to 3 is as squire. In fact, we should probably check on that. Like what I would have to recall, what is squire, what are fighter levels 1 to 3? Does that make sense to just say that, hey, if you are a first level squire, if you're a intro squire, then what you are is a first level fighter, and that you need to get to at least fighter level 3, someplace between fighter level 3 or 4, then you can be knighted. That could work. That could work, but on the other hand, it seems like there needs to be world-specific, at least socialization or something about the squires. We'll see what we come up with, because I feel like, okay, but then there needs to also be a max cap for being a squire as well. That eventually, if you're a squire for too long and you're just not making it, like for instance, for whatever reason you didn't make it, well, now you're too old. You didn't get knighted, so now you're gonna have to do something else, like become a fighter. A character can choose to enter at night higher than 5th. Okay. Have a certain mastery of horsemanship, attain at least advanced mastery in riding, show some skill at discretion and a good degree of willpower, attain at least average mastery in diplomacy, recruiting, and resisting persuasion skills, as well as gaining the etiquette and manners proficiency in the culture in which the order of knighthood is embedded. Join a knightly order in service of a lord or master with a cause. This can be a fatherland, religion, ideal, and so forth. So these are like, in-universe things you have to do, like we were just talking about. Now, this one says, have no major physical flaws, such as missing limbs, major digits, and the like. Be not afraid, which means you have no phobias. Be a man of honor. Be of average or higher honor. Must be proficient in 1 knightly melee weapon, mounted weapon, and lance. So lance required, one-handed melee, mounted weapon, 1 required. Oh, 1 required. Weapon specializations, and so forth. So I like that kind of thing. So adopting that, at least putting the hint of something like that in the world primer, I think makes this different and something we should do. Chivalry points? Actually, I've never read that. Heroic deeds are the meat and drink of knights. A knight always strives to pursue the main villain, engage in the most fearsome beast on the battlefield, and so forth, and do so with great conviction and a valiant manner. A knight in great honor or higher receives chivalry points, which may be spent to aid him at a key moment of a quest or mission. These points may be used to modify any of the knight's combat-related roles. Oh, so it's like a meta currency. 10 chivalry points plus 1 point per level that help you on saving throws and stuff like that. Now, see, that continues to the paladin. Now, I don't think we need to add in the paladin in Rabivania here for the world primer. I do think there are paladins, but they're going to be more like the paladins of the court of Charlemagne than a paladin in classic D&D. And then also some of the religious orders of knighthood will have paladins. So but you can't just start as a first level paladin either. Like you would have to be a knight as well in order to become a paladin. So they do replicate this over here. It says the ultimate holy warrior, a paladin is specialized knight subclass dedicated to a particularly lawful good deity. A paladin must always follow a true and just path in his unwavering service to the chivalric code imposed by his order. Each order has its own particular code that enumerates the virtues to which all paladins of the order must adhere. Honor, honesty, valor, and loyalty are required of being a paladin. So in order to be a paladin, you must continue to be of strong mind and stout heart, meeting all the knight's strength, dex, and con requirements, have high leadership quality. I believe that's increased in charisma, and show distinct insight and understanding. So that's increased wisdom as well. Prove great worth. Achieve at least 10th level in Knight. Entering the class as a character advances to 11th level, making him an 11th level paladin at the time. So your first 5 levels would be as a fighter, your next 10 would be as a knight, and then if you qualify, that's the first time that you could enter paladinhood. Paladin status, okay, so maintain mastery of knightly skills, studied faith and be nearly unshakable in his convictions, attain at least advanced mastery in religion and resist persuasion. Having served and continue to serve as a knightly order in a specific service of a lawful good deity, be of sound mind and body, have no quirks, flaws, or disfiguring scars, be a man of high honor. And maintain your weapon bonuses. So maintain your weapon proficiencies. So I like that kind of thing. I think it sounds like something that we should have at least hint at in the World Primer, because that makes Rabivania a bit different. It's one of the things that makes it a bit different. So, man. I guess there's demand. I guess there is high demand here in ChatGPT. We got a little bit here. Edit, paste, and match style. I'll show you, but I'll regenerate because it stopped. But let's at least see what it is suggesting here. So, all right. Here's the World Primer again. Retraining levels in Pathfinder 2 is a thing also, I think. Oh, see, I've got to think about that because I want to do, I had been going through and coming up with stats for 5e, and then I had been trying to convert them over to Pathfinder. So, yeah, that's true. We got to think about that, how that changes things, because you can retrain. I remember that vaguely as we were going through Pathfinder. It was a few weeks ago now. I remember that vaguely about, well, I was going in this direction, but then after a certain amount of time, like in downtime or something like that, you can retrain. So that would make it easier. Like if you have needed these certain skills in order to go on to this particular class over here, but you didn't realize you wanted to do that until a bit later, you could change it up. Okay, so right now, so this is saying Squire character class, hit points. This was our recommendation from our Chat GPT-4. This is actually Squire stats. I'm going to need to write up something on being a Squire, and then we'll put Squire 5e stats right here. And then we'll do Pathfinder as well later. Oh, when I hit regenerate, we're going to. So this is what it's first recommended. So Squire character class, hit points, hit dice, 1d10 per Squire level. Hit points at first level, 10 plus Constitution modifier. Hit points at higher levels, d10 plus 6 Constitution modifier per Squire level after first. Proficiencies. It seems like you have to have. It seems like you would want to go with the d10 hit die for the Squire, because you don't want the character who has like 3 levels in Squire and then 2 levels in Knight, so as a 5th level character, to be deficient in hit points than if he had just been like a 5th level fighter, right? Sable Phoenix says 5e is very video gaming in that you hit your level and magically gain new skills and toughness at all. I like 3.5 where you had to invest in certain skills and training to achieve a special class. Kind of like real life. Got to plan out how to become proficient in your skills and your profession. Yeah, it makes fifth edition makes so many things so much easier. Now, I want to start there because I think that it makes sense to start with rules for both Pathfinder and 5th edition, and then also do some other rules as well, right? That's one of the advantages of doing these smaller books. because maybe maybe we should do some kind of OSR version of this as well. That might be fun too, to then take this and go, hey, you know what? Now let's do another book that's more OSR oriented. We've certainly been studying enough of that. Of course, by the end of 3.5, there were so many prestige classes that had become a tangled mess. Yeah, it really had. There were so many different classes. And I think people must have just really liked them because they were all over those books. Like every book came with new prestige classes. But really, how many of them could you use anyway? Like it wasn't all that many. Like, and I was like, like how many characters did I actually get to play? How many prestige classes did I need? That was mainly wasted space in books. Neutral Master says, I think the least favorite of level-based RPGs for me is not being able to go back and change things up, especially if you hit the level cap, suddenly you can't learn or relearn anything. The game I play just assumes you can change one thing about your character every session. Yeah, so you're not immutable. Man, okay, but this says hit points at level. Okay, so proficiencies: light armor, medium armor, shields, weapons, simple weapons, martial weapons, tools, none. Saving throws, strength and constitution. Choose 2 from athletics, history, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. Oh, well, now, wait a minute. I was reading this. I was reading something about this. In 5th edition, how do you get new skills? Is that something that you can do? When you level up, God, it's been so long, I forget. That you're talking about changing things up or adding things right here. Like, do you get, like, can you, if you're untrained in a skill, can you all of a sudden become trained in one? Hey, Nico. Strength, constitution, choose 2 from athletics, history. So if we're saying that you have to actually increase your skills during your squirehood, increase the number of things that you're proficient in, is that even something that you can do according to the rules? You start with the following equipment in addition to the equipment granted by your background. But see, your background, like, I mean, you'd be starting this, like, there's only so much background you can have when you are a squire, right? Now, man, this is having problems. Here are some other options. So this one actually did, this generation. Come on, but we're supposed to. Everybody must be using it right now. You must unlearn what you have learned, Sable Phoenix says. The prestige class is also played into this. If you messed up one of the prereqs because you didn't use a planner, you couldn't make your build. Needed specific to hit bonuses or feats or things like that. That class explosion, Nico says, in D&D strikes me as an obsession with self-expression, as opposed to them being about playing a role in a group, like being part of a machine. More and more, I just want to move to Pathfinder. Well, yeah, I see, and it's simplicity to me too. Like, I can probably do what I want in the fighter class, especially if we're, be playing for 2 or 2.5 hours and things like that. Like, we're talking about, is infinite customizability really needed? Some people definitely will want that. But on the other hand, now I think in terms of, okay, how much time am I putting into this infinitely customizable potential, getting to this, or whatever, and using this particular prestige class to represent something? Or would it have just been fine if I had spent that time? I'm talking about actual play time, not doing that and doing something else that could have actually had more fun. Wanting to move to Pathfinder. Yeah, Pathfinder seems to address all of these things so elegantly. So maybe this is something that we need to put in, that Pathfinder will actually be able to do better. See, should you have all of these proficiencies? Light armor, medium armor, shields, simple weapons, and martial weapons, because you're training in them. So probably this one is this generation's recommending a D8. But I don't want to penalize, like, by the time you get to level 5, like, you shouldn't be under hit pointed even though, man, we're still operating within this inflationary hit point system. Because like what Sable Phoenix is talking about, the more and more we've gone through this, just one moment. The more we've gone through this, the less, the more and more things, and there were already many things, but there were several things that that I just that other systems do so much better. There were just problems with 5th edition. Nico says, I understand the need for self-expression in classes being a constraint. Half the time building a character is thinking, how do I make Batman, and figuring out how many levels of what. Infinite customizability is in the illusion of choice, and flexibility actually stifles creativity. Oh, in the pursuit of the illusion, rather. Infinite customizability in pursuit of the illusion of choice and flexibility actually stifles creativity. Okay, so I've got this generating. So, okay, so we're getting a little bit more here. So what do we think about this? Now I'm wondering, like, is this something we can actually do well in 5th edition anyway? Like, why would this? Okay, so like this squire does not need to have chainmail. He needs to have that term here. That's not a term in Rabivania. So like Gambison does not have a long sword. Let's say a short sword. Oh, so there's actually more that still has to be done to this primer than I thought, because actually one thing wasn't the squires that I thought that, hey, we need to adjust here. I thought that what we actually need to have is sample gear, which means that we also and go ahead and start to recalibrate some of these costs, because that's something that I think you'd also want to see in Rabivania. I realized that as I laid out this book, and this is a problem because this could be getting too long. I've really got to check very soon to make sure that I'm not going over my 48 pages. But I did think but a category that I never had that I think we should have is at least some sample gear list. And so right now I put that kind of as an appendix in the back of the book. And I just started putting out some different items here. But like, we're not doing plate mail. We got to get rid of. So this was a sample that I brought over from the Crusades, like a Crusades historical write-up for Dungeons and Dragons, because I was like, okay, so we're not doing full plate armor or something in Rabivania. We don't have that. The knights wear their full hauberk, and that's basically the pinnacle of personal defense. So I think that needs to go in here. But when that happens, we need to bring in a readjustment of prices, because I was remembered that when I saw that recommendation here that the squire has 10 gold pieces. The squire has 10 gold pieces when he's starting out. That doesn't sound very Rabivanian. So recalibrating the prices, like, so having this gear list that does tailor it a bit more to the setting, and then also recalibrating the prices so that copper is like what people would have around. And we've looked at some of those. The Magical Medieval Society, I believe, used the copper standard. I think we've looked at a couple of different ones. Of course, Knave did, so there was a recalibration there. I think we've seen a couple of different books that might have suggestions about, okay, how do we actually get these prices under control so everybody's not throwing around gold all over the place. And we need Gambison here. So probably what we need to do here in Rabivania is we're not using the term chainmail anyway. We're using the term mail, and then make sure I am spelling this right. Yeah, like Habergeron. So probably a lot of our variations in armor class going all the way up. Now, that may not be right, AC 16, but like mail halberd. And it's difficult to get these pieces of armor. Actually, this might be a like you're that's one of the things you need to do as you're being a squire and you're about to get knighted. I mean, also having a certain level of equipment is necessary in order to become a knight. So there's part of the gating of that class would be that, well, you've got to have a fox, like you'd have to have a horse, like you've got to have a fox, you've got to have a male hauberk, you've got to have a helmet, you've got to have a shield, a spear, and a sword. And now different ways you can get that, because it may be that if you're lacking something like that and you're on the edge of knighthood because you haven't been able to afford it, you probably get gifts. You probably get gifts. So, this is probably not a game about, buying a whole bunch of stuff. But if you don't have it, probably what you're supposed to be doing is accumulating this over the years while you're a squire. And then, hey, when your knighthood is announced, you get gifts from friends to make sure that you have the required equipment. So that is also something that has to happen. I forgot about that. I added that in a few days ago as I was looking at this. This might be, it makes me want to go back and look at some of the way that Dark Sun did the piecemeal armor. And there is piecemeal armor in the Fighter's Handbook as well for AD&D, because that might be a place to put it back in. Because if you go, oh, wait, what is it? What kind of armor have we got here? We've got Gambison armor, and then we've got different, like just mail. Well, it can't just be mail. Let's have a few different types of mail here. But then like adding in the helmet, what type of helmet you're wearing, that may be something that the AC goes here. So I think that the gear list here is something that also would go well to starting defining the feel of Rabivania. So there's still a little bit more work that needs to be done here. Lots of discussion about levels here. Zero the Blade says, this is why you need to understand what roles the class is meant to do for the party will determine the build people take with it. Well, to understand what roles the class is meant to do for the party will determine the build people will take with it. Sable Phoenix says, children need and even desire rules and boundaries set by their families because it helps them understand the place of the world and gives them a feeling of safety. Players are the same. It's better to have restrictions on what races, classes, etc. are available, choosing from a particular set of choices rather than, do whatever you want. I mean, and it takes a long time. You're talking about character generation, because one of the things, that I harp on quite a bit is faster character generation. I don't want it to take forever. And one way that you can keep it from taking forever is by restricting what actually it is that you can do, right? And what you can actually build. Because if you start with, hey, you can play whatever you want to play, well, then people sit there with the books, or can sit there with the books for a long time. And then you end up with a really weird, eclectic collection of characters anyway. Nico says, Neutromancer, well, is an RPG game the right place for self-expression? It's like saying, let's all get together so we can indulge our own wish fulfillment fantasy. Neutromancer, I have no problem playing RPGs without classes and levels. Me too. When we have unlimited choices, it becomes nearly impossible to sort through and make a choice. Ironically, restricting choice grants improved liberty of action. Neutromancer says, I don't play games where you have a menu of 2,000 feats to pick from. I really build my character and decide what he can do. That's like creating a GURPS character. I mean, you've got infinite flexibility, but what you've got to do, it seems like to me, that the role of the game master there, but this is extra work for the game master, is to say, oh my God, okay, we got all this possibility here in the GURPS book. Let's condense this to what is and is not appropriate for this campaign and this game that I'm going to be running. Sometimes GURPS has tried to do that itself by creating like the action books, or especially the dungeon fantasy books. Yeah, I don't understand what the pants thing either. Okay, so I guess there is actually more work to be done here, but I'm going to try to. I want to do more work on this, especially over the next week, because there isn't a whole lot more to do here, and I want to get it done. All the text in here done. I do need to check to be sure that I'm not just completely blowing away my page count. So it was supposed to be 10,000 words of lore. That was going to save 2,500 words for the stats. That was my original layout. And then I was hoping that would be able to get me to 48 pages worth of text for the book. 48 pages worth of book plus room for illustrations. That was the goal. I have no idea whether or not that works exactly right. This is the first time I've tried to systematize this book's a creation of a particular book of this kind. So if those numbers need to be adjusted, well, then we'll know going forward to the other books in the future. But I guess I should probably check that soon. All right. Well, we have been at this, we've been at this for about an hour. Thank you for hanging with me. I have enjoyed this. Tomorrow, we need to come up with a new topic for discussion tomorrow on the Morning Grind. Don't forget that tomorrow evening, though, we're going to be talking about the hero's journey as it relates to feminine archetypes. But then also, if you did not see the discussion of Pan's Labyrinth last night, you should really check that out if you're interested in this. So we did do, let's look, we did cyclic dungeon generation. I really enjoyed that topic yesterday. Oh, I do have, well, we could look at this. This just in. Complete Psionics Handbook. We were supposed to, I wanted to look at this because, 10 candles. That's a really good one. I saw you post that. I saw that posted someplace in passing. Yes, I think you're right. We do need to look at 10 candles. Okay, I'm going to have to reorganize my notes here. 10 candles. That could be one. Because I got the Complete Psionics Handbook here because I want to look at that because we wanted to look at Psionics because we've been looking at Dark Sun. But maybe I'm not, my desk is still a mess here, so I'm not really ready to do something physical again. Soon, but I still got to clean. So maybe it's better. 10 candles is probably an online thing that we can look at with a PDF. Might have to do that or do that soon. So that might be a good one. Also, like Maul's Ritter is probably one because that one was very gear based. Knave we did. Okay. So anyway, all right. We'll come up with something tomorrow, and I will try to be sure that is that the second edition Psionics Handbook? Yep, it is. See you later, everybody. Everybody have a great, productive day and grind on. I'll see you tomorrow morning and then